of course, and a lot of soft drinks. So whatever you guys need, ask us. Raise.
And I'm pretty sure you can do that, so nothing to worry about.
Like buy drinks or usually €3 for soft drink, 4 for wine and beer. Alright, this side. Yeah, I can see those.
I think so.
Yeah, that's
നല്ല മ്യൂസിക് വെള്ളത്തിൻ്റെ കൂടെ
Sorry about that. Would you like to drink something?
Sure. I'll do a
we have glass and straws.
It's a good view everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. Don't know where they are.
I know.
Alright, and for you it was a swimming ball, right?
Thank you.
For both of you or?
That was the original.
It's like normal. Erwin, kun je het water aanzetten voor de post? Ja, I think it's on.
And for you? Sibling those is
Yeah, with wine.
White wine?
Yeah.
Sodium chloride. Sodium chloride.
you know first.
So which one is the other one? Thank you.
Sodium chloride.
I don't know the sweetest.
Sweetest sodium.
Then I this one.
Did it work? I'm sorry about that.
Irish is so.
Thank you.
You have to Irish it. There's a black flag and supposed to hold that.
Yeah.
You were good, right? Perfect.
Oh yeah?
All right. So, are you actually? I've got a question for you because are you actually here just for the drinks and for the atmosphere, or do you actually also want to hear some stories? All right. That's great. So, is it okay with everybody if I just start off with a little bit of the history, like for a foundation of the tour? Okay, great. So, the place where we actually started from, that was the central station, of course, the big train station. Nowadays, millions and millions and millions of people a year pass by that train station. But back in the days, it actually used to be our harbor, the harbor of Amsterdam. Actually, the harbor was spread out all the way to the east. So if you look right behind you, that was already the end of the harbor. And there was the big Amsterdam harbor. And to transport all of the goods that we, especially in the 16 and 1700s, gained, we built all of these canals by hand to distribute all of these goods throughout the city. So, during the 1700s, Amsterdam was actually a pretty big trading city. But before that, at about 1275, Amsterdam was not that big. It was just a very ordinary trading village. There was not really a lot that was going on over there. 1275 was the official establishment of Amsterdam, because that was the date when Amsterdam got their city rights. But there was not a lot going on. There is a lot of fish in this water, of course, so they were fishing all the time. Also, the water over here was not drinkable. It still not really is. But the best way to make sure that there was drinkable, like fluid, they made beers of these water. That was also the best way to keep the water good for a longer time. They just had about 1% of alcohol in the beer, so even the kids were drinking beers at that time. It's pretty crazy. So at that time, they were actually just eating fish, drinking beer, kind of had a really great life, right? But it was nothing really special. It was the Dark Ages. So that all changed during the 1600s, and that was mostly due to one big company. Does anybody know what company that would be? Yeah, I've heard it over there, right? So it's indeed the Dutch East India Trading Company, or the VOC is how you can say it in Dutch. And that company did one specific thing very well. So they were going to the Far East, especially Indonesia, because Indonesia used to be a colony of ours, Dutch East India. And they were actually getting spices over there, because spices at the time were really expensive, okay? Like, for instance, that little wine cup, right, you have in front of you, if you would fill that up all the way to the top with black pepper at the time, it was already enough for you to buy an entire house on these canals. So imagine if you came back with a ship loaded with that stuff, you would just be a very wealthy man. And all that wealth was brought to Amsterdam. VOC, or the Dutch East India Trading Company, made Amsterdam very rich. Actually, the way as they do it, they were by themselves, they were calling it the spice trading. Nowadays, we consider that to be spice stealing. It was not really good what they did, but just to keep the tour also a little bit fun, we just keep that in the middle. But it was a fact that Amsterdam just got really wealthy of that. And since there was also a fire during the 1500s, there was a lot of space and a lot of money. So they built this city of Amsterdam in just about 150 years. And since that is not really a long time, you can see that all of these houses in Amsterdam, which are part of the original Amsterdam, which is now considered to be the city center, all have the same kind of architecture. They really blend in with each other very well. And you can just immediately see that they are Amsterdam houses, right? If you look at the original Amsterdam houses, what is the thing that really points out to you if you look at them? Any ideas? Lots of windows, indeed. That's true. Also, the size, they're very skinny. So actually the reason why almost all of these houses in Amsterdam are very skinny is very logical, okay? So back in the days you were paying taxes upon the width of your house. So if you had a very small house in terms of width, you would just pay less taxes. And Dutch people, well, people in general, but especially Dutch people, don't like to pay taxes. So that's the way how they fixed it. They built it relatively tall. Also, the houses go pretty deep. So that's how they kind of fixed it. Also, there's another canal. That's called the Lord's Canal. And on that canal, we're going to be there in a bit. But there you can see that people really were rich and they didn't care about paying taxes at all. And those houses are really big. But we're going to see that in a bit. So I'll talk about that a little bit later, okay? Because first, we've actually left the canals, okay? Sounds strange on the canal tour, but right now we are actually coming onto the only natural waterway of Amsterdam, and that is the Amstel River. So maybe you've already heard about it, but the Amstel River is also where Amsterdam got its name from, because at the end of the Amstel River there is a big dam. And that dam is Dam Square. So, well, does everybody see that little tower over there? That tower is a coin tower. They used to stamp coins over there. And if you go a little bit further next to the canal, you will eventually get to Dam Square. So together you have like Amstel, Dam. They come up with the name Amsterdam. Like that's strange, right? And this is really annoying to pronounce. So just after a few beers, they named it Amsterdam. That's how it got its name. Pretty straightforward. And on this Amstel River, there are a lot of beautiful things to see, like the old, our city hall, for example, next to the Opera building. What do you think of these buildings? No, what do you think? They're modern, right? Well, actually, they have been voted out to be the ugliest building of Amsterdam for 5 consecutive years already. So, people in Amsterdam, we have like an unwritten rule that you are not supposed to like this, okay? Especially the left one, which is actually our city hall, is not loved. The right one is our opera building. In my opinion, it looks like a giant toilet flush. But yeah, that's also why we call our city hall the shitty hall. I know it's pretty bad. I'm sorry. I'll stop with this.
Whoa.
Alright guys, and on my right hand side right now you will see our most famous bridge. So that bridge right there is actually called the Magere Brug, or the Skinny Bridge, but it has another name and it's the Lovers Bridge. So if there's any lovers on board, I recommend to walk through there later on, because the legend goes that if you kiss below that bridge, your love will last forever. I know, forever is a really, really long time. So I always like to make the joke that the smaller rendition that we see right there is our Tinder bridge. So it's only 24 hours, a little less commitment, and you can still upgrade, later on. But I always recommend now to go in the evening, because all of the light bulbs that you see on the bridges, they're also there, and it's a very romantic setting, I'd say. So Dave already touched upon a little bit on this canal. Maybe you can guess through that which canal this is. Do you see the difference in the houses already, the architecture maybe? This is the rich one, exactly. Exactly. So this is what we call the Gentleman's Canal, or also Herengracht. And you can see the buildings are really, really big. They have big windows, big doors. So people obviously didn't really care about the old taxation system, didn't really care about anything. If you look at how many windows some of them have, it's a bit of a show off at the time, It's like, I have the money, I have more money than you, I can build a bigger house, you would have your Rolex or Lamborghini today, this is what you do back in the day. But these are really beautiful homes. However, not a lot of people actually live on this canal because, for obvious reasons, very expensive. So it's a lot of companies, insurances, banks. There's the old headquarters of Booking.com, so if you book with them, you know where your money's going, into a really nice house here. But no, it's very quiet canal. If you walk here in the evening, it's really a difference to the hustle and bustle of the red light district, I'd say, but quite relaxed. So I recommend that as well. Go through the Lovers Bridge, walk here, sit on the side of the canal. It's very relaxing. And just after this bridge, on my right hand side, we have a very Yeah. After the bridge, we have a very famous hotel, and we're not sponsored by this hotel. It's just a little bit of an interesting story. Basically, that the World of Astoria, which is the hotel, bought out almost the entire block of buildings over the last 25 years, and they interconnected each and every one of the buildings. You would never know from the outside, because Amsterdam is actually to 80% UNESCO World Heritage protected. Hence, we can't change a lot about the facades or generally, which is why the rooms start at a cheap price of $750 a night, and we have a 25,000 suite. So if anyone's staying there, Dave and I are taking numbers. We're very happy to stay in contact with you. No, but it's just very interesting to see that you can't tell from the outside. And why we have always a little bit of a traffic jam right here is because after this bridge, on the left-hand side, so this direction, there's a very famous view. It's called the Seven Bridges of Amsterdam. It was quite rare to have bridge after bridge after bridge after bridge, because Amsterdam is a little bit of an onion shape. So people love to take a picture so much that it's actually our most Googled photo. So if you want to add to that, you're very, very welcome to take the phones out, take a little picture to this direction after the bridge.
Magic bully.
Picture time. You're gonna stay
There you go.
I think it's Emily.
Oj, vad är det nu? Selfie, selfie. Good deal.
Just like that little drop off for you. Just find you have to
All right, guys. So Dave already told you earlier that the canals are hand dug, right? Yes, you remember? Okay, so that kind of gives you a little bit of a tip to my next guessing game. So I want to ask you, if you know maybe already, how deep are the canals? What do you think? 7 feet? A little bit more. 10 feet and 3 meters only. Almost. Divided by 5. But yes, they are actually really, really shallow. And we even have a saying that it's basically 1 meter of mud at the bottom, then 1 meter of bicycles, and then the 1 meter of water. So even less space. And while we say it as a joke, it's not that far from the truth. Because actually every year there's around 15,000 bikes that get taken out of the canals. So there's these 2 guys, Jeroen and Jeroen. Their entire job is basically to go out in the canals every single day on this boat with a platform and a grappling hook, and they take out the bikes day in, day out. We've seen, there was one, maybe you spotted it earlier, but a lot of times the bikes just fall into the canals. Different reasons. Sometimes it's just the wind, like yesterday we had a big stormy moment there, maybe you were here. So it's the wind, or it's also a lot of the times drunk tourists or stronken tourists. Stronken means stoned and drunk. They really love to throw things that are close to the canals. Also, for some reason, a Dutch frat boy thing. Can't tell you why. Or if you have a really, really angry ex. And they're like, you're not going anywhere anymore. But yeah, we actually have double the amount almost of bikes in Amsterdam than people. So you can imagine there's a lot of them that just get lost, just stand around. Also the reason why they go in. We have 2 bikes on average then. One's the beer bike, you go out to your party with it. The other one's the nice one, you take to your parents, take around Amsterdam on a nice day like this. But yeah, bikes are the only things that unfortunately fall into the canals. We also have people, first other category. And this is also usually because they're stonken or drunk. And it's usually of the male sex. Because they like to go to the canal to relieve themselves. It's a bit easier than for us women. And then they're maybe chumbling a bit and they fall in with the zipper down, and it's really hard to get out. Because that's also, I think, why we have a lot of these ladders around or ledges. It shouldn't encourage you, please, to still pee in there. Just because you can't get out doesn't mean you will. So, no. But yes, people a lot. And then we also have cars. And a lot of the cars, well, you can see they're very close to the water. I'm not very good at parallel parking. If you're also not, this is a very scary thing. But for some reason, we also have then these metal bars. So we had a car named Tesla that really loved going into the water because they have the self-parking feature that wasn't really tweaked yet at the beginning. So they kept going in the water. And now we have these beautiful bars built by insurance companies who are like, I've had enough of these claims. Please stop. But it does happen still, but only a couple times a year. So a lot less than bikes and even people.
So there's no harm.
So what I hear guys, those cars must have some good transmission to be able to get up. Well, I guess that's where they're running.
Well, you can still see it like on this side.
Alright guys, so we just had a very, very good question. So the lovely lady on the left asked, why are some of the houses slanted like this? Maybe you've seen it already. This is what we kind of like to call our dancing or drunk houses. But besides the jokes, and actually has a little bit of a reason. So the houses are leaning left and right because back in the day there was a lot more water fluctuation in these canals. They're controlled nowadays, but back in the day it wasn't. And the city is actually built on 11 million wooden poles. So with these poles, when there's a lot of oxygen coming to it, it would mold, it would crackle, wasn't very stable. Nowadays we've obviously kind of figured out ways to stabilize them with cement and floating concrete and metal injected into these poles and whatever not. But we can't really put them back in place because then they would crumble. So what we do is actually we average out the floors on the inside so that nothing rolls one way, which doesn't really work in my apartment. So if you put a can on one way, it will still go the other. I think my bed is still slanted a bit. But this is the reason why a lot of the houses are going left and right. And maybe you told them about the hooks and beams? No. Okay. Because and then I'm going to tell you about why the houses are slanted forward. So when that's happening, it's actually made on purpose. So it has an architectural reason in a sense. Because a lot of the times on the buildings you have hooks and beams. This canal less because it was the rich people. They didn't need it as much as the people who were trading or the houses that were basically used to have just storage. This is also, especially on the Prinsenkanal, maybe you've been there already, the Prinsenkanal, Prinsengracht. They're mainly used for storage, so they have a hook and a beam, there we go, on top of the building, and you would put a rope through it, and then put your goods, and you would pull them up. So in order for them to not really, go on the facade like, they would build the houses a little bit forward, so that the goods could basically swing in front of it. So you will see them everywhere. I don't know if we have any good houses here, but you will see them all around the city. These hooks and beams are still used today. When the students are moving in, it's a very cheap way to do it, just put the rope through. But it gets a bit scary when you don't measure your couch and it doesn't fit, and then you're there like, okay, I guess we'll just go at IKEA. I think they make a lot of profit here, honestly, because it's a hassle getting everything through the windows and the staircases. So I told you already also before that the city is under UNESCO World Heritage Protection, or a large extent of it. This is also the reason, or partially the reason, why we see a lot of these little metal helpers on the side of the bridges and walls. Because it is a really, really long process to rebuild the walls and the foundations of the bridges, accordingly to UNESCO World Heritage, we have these kind of to stabilize them for the time being. The other reason is that it costs a lot of money, so it's just kind of to do it for the moment. But you can see we also use them for beautiful, decoration with the small tulips coming out now. Just tulip season started around 2 weeks ago, which is beautiful. In last summer, we also had a lot of people that put wheat plants in it, so you didn't have to go to a coffee shop. You could just pick them right there. But yeah, generally speaking, it's really nice to have a little bit of, green in the city, also for the bees. But they have that reason, if you were wondering.
So crazy that
What?
Gotta try them all. Grab some cheese for the back. Sorry. Cheese in the
Alright, I just heard someone mentioning the houseboats. I don't know who it was, but I walked past and I was wondering maybe if you would like to know a little bit more about them. Yes? Okay. So right now we are actually passing some beautiful examples. So Amsterdam actually nowadays has 2,500 houseboats, which sounds like a lot, but there used to be double that amount. Especially in the 60s, there was a little bit of a housing crisis as there is today. But at that time, they said, you know what, you can squat in the waters, just stay there. And that everyone, of course, dumps everything in the water, and it got really, really dirty. There is now a permit system. So these 2,500 houseboats, they have to have gas, water, electricity, plumbing, everything installed. So you'll also a lot of the time see these little pipes going into the walls. So nothing goes in the canal waters anymore. We have these kind of original classic houseboats like these. These are cargo boats. They used to have an engine inside, but now they're completely remodeled. They're actually sometimes really, really fancy homes. And then we also have these modern types that we can see coming up right there. And they're built on floating concrete. So there's air bubbles injected into the concrete. That's how it stays afloat. They're a lot easier to maintain, to repair, what you would kind of choose nowadays, let's say. But all of these homes are actually really, really expensive. Because we have this kind of scarce limitation on it, the permits will cost you around €500,000. Depending, of course, on the canal, the house, like the location, whatever, not in the market, but around $500,000, and then you still need to buy the boat. So if you have, again, depending on the market, depending on the boat, you're looking at around $1.5 million for the whole thing. So it is not really, well, like this hippie lifestyle anymore, but the hippies back then, they're really, really rich people now, because they get to keep the permits lifelong. So once you buy them, you can pass them down to your children, you can keep them forever, but yeah, you just need to buy the boat, of course. But yeah, the other option is always Airbnb. On this canal, I'd say we don't see that many. But if you do, or the way to figure out is always to, wait really happily inside. A lot of people do it on the canals as well. And if they're really happy to see you, those are the Airbnbs. And if they wave back with one finger, we say, do not approach, please, because they will not be happy. But yeah, this is fair enough. But yeah, we have beautiful examples on the site, so enjoy.
Pablo's boat.
So nice.
Because everybody enjoying the tour so far. Yeah? Perfect. Alright, so unfortunately we're already gonna be back in about 5 to 10 minutes. But before we're gonna get back, I'd like to make one small announcement. Because actually me, Delia and Erwin, we are one team over here at Flagship, and in between our company we have a little bit of a competition. So if you would want to help us out by this competition, we made those little cards over there, and they're actually TripAdvisor review cards. And if you really enjoyed this tour, then you can help us out by leaving a review, because whoever at the end has the most points, and every review with 5 stars will count as a point, will get a very special prize. So this month the prize we can win is a boat, not one like this, but like an open boat, where we can all three have an individual boat. We can take out all of our friends, we can drink whatever we want, we get our own skipper. And if you would want to help us by winning that prize, then you can help us by leaving a review. Of course, it's not, you don't have to do it, just if you really enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy the tour and you're planning on leaving a bad review, then just don't mention our names, okay? Make that a deal. But she's gonna distribute the cards right now, and her names are written underneath, and it will be highly appreciated. Oh yeah, and also, if you could give back the cards in the end of the tour, that would be nice, and we can reuse them for the environment.
Thank you.
There's a really big performance wall that's
favor, continue for the flight home and into bedtime.
Another time to go flight. I can make one mistake over here. It's always a lovers, right? It's our biggest enemy. Lovers. Nice. Like that? Sure. Let me know if you want me to take my Okay, so unfortunately we're already back to the place where we first started from, so that means that we have to say goodbye already. But from this moment on, please remain seated so we can dock the boat. Docking is like, we have a good skipper, but docking is always quite hard. Sometimes it comes with a bump, so please remain seated. But at least, thank you so much for being here. I hope that we can add some value to your trip here to Amsterdam. And also, if you really enjoyed the tour, we do have a little thing of a tip jar. You can put something in if you liked it. If you didn't like it, feel free to also take something out. Free country, free tip jar. Fair tip jar, fair country. So at least thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.